Live-action remakes, better than animation? No, most of the time, but we gotta talk about these live-action remakes that were better than the animated versions. First up, Speed Racer. I know no one who thinks that the cartoon is better than the movie. How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I've seen the Boris Karloff version, I've seen the Jim Carrey version. I think the Jim Carrey version does a better job. And while the Ralph Bakshi version of The Lord of the Rings has its fans, there are very few people who would say that is better than the Peter Jackson version. My most controversial answer, The Cat in the Hat. I'm not saying it's good, I'm not saying it's bad, I'm just saying it's better than the animated version. Because sure, the animated version is very close to the original, but I just plain enjoy the live action version more. It has so much more ambition, so much broader scope, so much more fun, and it's so much weirder. And because it's in live action and they're doing all these cartoony things, it feels so much more like a cartoon. Inspector Gadget is the gold standard for a live action remake because it understands that this is a cartoon. And so if it wants to adapt it, it needs to create a live-action cartoon. And so in everything from the camera angles, to the lenses, to the music, to the set design, to the props, the wardrobe, the acting, everything is working together to create a cartoon, just in live action. And that brings out the cartoony nature of the plot so much stronger than an animated version would. That's one of the strengths of a live-action adaptation that most people don't take advantage of. We expect live-action to be realistic, and so when you make a live-action remake that is as cartoony as the original, it feels so much more cartoony. Now you might be thinking, all of those are technically re-adaptations, not remakes. They're taking the same source material and adapting it again. But the reason why I'm focusing on re-adaptations is because that's what a lot of Disney's live-action remakes are. I'm pretty sure the only times Disney has done a live-action remake that wasn't a re-adaptation were Lilo and Stitch, and that's it. Even Lady and the Tramp was based on a magazine article. Even How to Train Your Dragon isn't actually a live-action remake under those terms. It's a re-adaptation because, again, the books. So if we want to talk about the Disney live-action remakes, I do think there's one that was better than the animated version. And only one. It was Cinderella. Because if anybody's going to bring the majesty of this film to live action, it's Kenneth Branagh. You probably know him for Thor. But even if you don't think the Kenneth Branagh version of Cinderella is better than the 1950 version, maybe you think Ever After is better than the 1950 version. Or maybe you think The Ugly Stepsister is better than the 1950 version. Or maybe you just think that Ella Enchanted is better than the 1950 version. Any of those would be very valid takes. Frankly, I'd be surprised to find somebody who thinks the 1950 version is the best version of Cinderella, because there are just so many versions of Cinderella out there. Honorable mention to Scooby-Doo, Avatar: The Last Airbender, not the M. Night Shyamalan version, you know what I'm talking about, and One Piece. And while you might have hated Pan or Peter Pan and Wendy, you probably loved Hook. I'm not saying that any of those are better than their animated versions, that's why it's an honorable mention, but I am going to say that the fandom embraces these live-action versions and welcomes them and celebrates them. There are some live-action remakes that aren't better than the animated version, but are still welcomed and loved. It doesn't have to be better. Maybe it can just be good enough. I feel like there's something I missed. There's something in my head that's going, you forgot. Oh well, the comments will tell me. Follow me on YouTube and Blue Sky at Movies and Heist for more movie love. You can get these videos a week early and help fund my movie at patreon.com/moviesandheist. Special thanks to these patrons for helping to fund my movie.